Today you will see the most legendary wrestling bouts of the 20th century. These bouts went down in history and changed the wrestling world forever. In the video will be the greatest fights between the legendary wrestlers of the past. Wrestlers who left an indelible mark on the sport with their skill and fighting spirit. Get ready to see historical moments that influenced the development of wrestling and became true classics. 1968 Mexico City Olympic Freestyle Wrestling Tournament. The greatest freestyle wrestler and future three-time Olympic champion Alexander Medved arrives for his second Olympic Games, being at that moment the winner of the last Games in 1964 held in Tokyo, as well as the owner of 4 gold medals of the World Championships. He is undoubtedly the main favorite for the Olympics in Mexico City. But this Olympics became very difficult for him. The Mexican Highlands met the Olympians with exhausting heat. The body needed time to adapt, so according to Alexander Medved, he had to fight clenched in his fist. The Soviet athlete chose the tactic of impenetrability. With all his appearance, he demonstrated confidence, smiled and behaved energetically, and only a narrow circle of people knew what was really going on. My heart condition came out later at the Olympics in Mexico City. It was enough for 3 minutes, and then my eyes started to double. That's why I tried to win during that time, recalled Alexander Medved. It is difficult to say at what price Alexander was given a victorious march in this tournament. Perhaps the general mood of the wrestler or the fear of opponents before the Russian bear played into the hands of the athlete from the Soviet Union. But despite the difficulties, and at this Olympiad, all of Alexander Medved's fights were mostly of early, fleeting nature. Throughout the Olympic tournament in Mexico City, Alexander Medved performed calmly and confidently defeated one opponent after another. But now it was time for the final. Against Alexander Medved, his old rival, the world-famous German Wilfried Dietrich, Olympic champion in 1960 and world champion in 1961, came out. The same Dietrich who, at the 1961 World Championships in Japan, prevented the young Alexander, who had just started wrestling at the international level, from reaching the final. But this time on the mat before the German stood not a debutant, but a wrestler with a capital letter, an Olympic champion, owning a filigree wrestling technique, whose name alone was feared by many of his opponents and fellow wrestlers. It is time to take revenge for that old offense. Those who saw that fight then said that it was a battle of the titans. Unlike other wrestlers, Wilfried Dietrich was not afraid of Alexander Medved. He had already defeated him and was ready to fight to the end. And now in the final round, the competitors are facing each other. In the middle of the fight, suddenly there is a clearly audible crunch. The referee stops the fight. The thumb on Alexander's right hand is unnaturally sticking out to the side. Dislocation. The referee looks at the athlete in bewilderment. He does not know what to do. Wilfried Dietrich is clearly waiting for Alexander Medved to declare that the fight cannot continue. And then something incredible happens. Completely calmly, without blinking an eye, Alexander Medved, before the eyes of the German wrestler, who was amazed by his will, with a flick of his finger back in place and gives a signal to the referee to continue the fight. Dietrich, who just a minute ago desperately resisted this Russian, is completely demoralized. He was so shocked by what he saw that he could no longer resist with dignity. After the first pass of Medved to his feet, Dietrich suddenly went limp and refused to continue the fight. Alexander Medved won by the number of points, becoming the Olympic champion for the second time. The 1972 Olympics left a remarkable mark in the history of world sports, along with the extravaganza victories of the Soviet gymnast Olga Korbut, the fantastic triumph of the Soviet Union's men's basketball team, the tragedy with the hostage-taking of Israeli athletes. This Olympic tournament was also remembered for the victory of David over Goliath, the legendary event at the wrestling tournament called the Throw of the Century. Then for the outstanding German wrestler, Olympic champion, world and European champion, and so to speak the author of this legendary event, which in today's video will be discussed, Wilfried Dietrich, home Olympics in Munich in 1972 was unsuccessful. For the first time in his long career, he was left without a medal, but ironically, it was this tournament that made the heavyweight world famous. Thanks to the famous throw of the century, he defeated the American mess monster Chris Taylor. And this successful photo of that move was even recognized as the best shot of the entire Olympic tournament. At that time, there were no restrictions for heavyweights, and imagine the situation on the mat 39-year-old Dietrich, whose height is 184 centimeters and weighs a little more than 100 kilograms. And against him is an American who is 17 years younger, 12 centimeters taller and twice as heavy. A little earlier in the tournament, the American heavyweight easily defeated the German in freestyle. And in Greco-Roman wrestling, with its emphasis on mess, Dietrich had even less chance. Taylor outclassed his opponent in everything. For the first minutes of the duel, the 200 kilograms American confirmed the predictions and dominated on the mat. But in the 40th minute, everything suddenly changed. Dietrich caught his attacking opponent by wrapping his arms around him and getting under him. With an unbelievable effort, after a brilliant and risky deflection, Dietrich managed to lift the 200 kilograms carcass off the ground and toss him to the mat, and then held him on his shoulder blades. Later, sitting in the locker room after his sensational defeat, Taylor told a fellow national teammate that he didn't believe he was defeated that way. "I didn't think there was a man in the world who could rip me off the mat and throw me, but I was wrong." As in life, things aren't always fair in sports. Dietrich's brilliant victory did not significantly affect his tournament position, and in the end, as already mentioned, he was left without medals. The 1972 Olympics, the legendary bout of the greatest wrestler Alexander Medved. At that time, 35-year-old Alexander Medved, already a two-time Olympic champion, came to Munich for his third Olympic Games. Looking ahead, I will say that he won these Olympic Games, having defeated Bulgarian Osman Jurliyev in the final. But the main obstacle in winning Olympic gold for Alexander Medved was not the final with the Bulgarian, but the semi-final fight with the American super heavyweight. So to speak, with the last hope to defeat the Russian bear, the American super heavyweight Chris Taylor, who was specially fattened by American trainers according to the newest secret technology for the fight with Alexander Medved. And I must say they fattened him up well, because the weight of the American wrestler was 200 kilograms. But at the same time, despite such a powerful complex, he was mobile and flexible and well kept his balance. This fight caused unprecedented excitement. The stands were packed to capacity. Everyone wanted to see this fight. The spectators were shocked by the contrast. The huge, powerful giant Taylor, astonishing and tiny in comparison to Alexander Medved. Well, check this out. Here's how it turned out.
He came right out and started pressing. He just decided, "I'm coming at you, Medved. Do something with me." A couple of other interesting results today. Sergio Gonzalez of the U.S. team tied the three-time world champion Jadapur of Iran. And Jadapur is the present world's record holder at 105 pounds. Frank Shank tonight at 220 pounds lost to Satari of Hungary 5-1. But a good day all the way around. And Wayne Wells earlier this evening, a good hope for gold here at Munich, won at 163 pounds. He pinned his opponent, Ali Demirtas of Turkey. You're looking at big Chris Taylor and Alexander Medved. Score tied, 2-2. The thing we've got to be very aware of right now is whether or not these officials are going to double caution these fellas out. It's outside, no points. You can see the official signal, both men up again. Right now, they're not wrestling as hard as they were when they got that second caution, Frank. And they both have two, Ken. One more disqualification for Van Mark. Medved. Takedown. A takedown for Medved. That's a big one. 1 point. Medved now leads it 3-2. And now, Ken, what he's trying to do with Chris Taylor, which will be almost impossible, I would think. He's trying to turn him. Trying to pin him. Referee stops it. Dangerous hold. Potentially dangerous hold. Now, that is not any penalty. It just, they stop the match, put them back up on their feet. 3-2, Alexander Medved. 1 minute and 15 seconds remain in the match. Chris has got to go now. I think we'll see him open up. He's going to try something. It may cost him, and he may score. Chris glancing quickly up to the scoreboard, and this is what he sees. A little over 1 minute remains in the match. The final round. Chris Taylor showing awfully well. From here, we'll see Medved just try to counter, protect his lead. He's a veteran, as we know. He's got 12 years on Chris Taylor. Of course, Ken, he cannot risk too much, though. If he gets that third caution, he would be disqualified. Yes, that's true. I don't believe we're going to see the officials do that. No. With a two-time Olympic champion here being cautioned out. Now he's trying to work his body lock. And 26 seconds. 26 seconds remain. They just stopped and said, let's work. No caution there. Just a little reminder, we're out here to wrestle, fellas. We're down at 15 seconds to go in the match. Chris is going to have to throw a big one to either tie it or possibly get a two-pointer. He could win it, but I'm afraid the experience of Medved will tell. 5 seconds remain. 3, 2,